I love sports, being in a public school, playing soccer, football, all that kind of stuff. A lot of my time was spent practicing the guitar, and then ultimately, as a very young teenager, teaching classical guitar lessons. I started running when I was 11, and and the people in my track club were incredibly inspiring, all really highly intelligent and unique, provocative individuals. And our coach was Dave Steen, who had won the Commonwealth gold for the shot put, who was and is a very, very intellectual, fascinating, also loving and caring guy. So, there was tremendous social bonding and connection in that track club. Many of the runners who I was very close to participated in the Olympics, and Brian Maxwell in particular, who was one of my best friends. And when I was a teenager, I was kicked out of my house and moved in with Brian and his family. But Brian at one point was ranked third in the world in the marathon, and then went on to invent Power Bar himself, in Berkeley, and ultimately sold it to Nestle's for $500 million, and then got another $500 million in stock shares. So the runners that I grew up with were very, very interesting, fascinating people, highly intelligent, but also very, very loyal. And it was a very good positive experience for me, because though I wasn't a particularly gifted runner, between my absolute and total involvement in music and the load of workouts I was doing, I really didn't have time to get in any kind of trouble. So I think it was a very valuable thing for me.
Yes, and your brother Larry was running with you too, right? Or training with you?
Yeah, we were in the same track club. And when we were kids, because I'm 2.5 years older, and we were just ruthlessly competitive with each other growing up. And so we would put together these running courses. And again, because I was 2.5 years older and therefore faster, when he was, say, 12, when I was 14, I would give him a handicap, right? And we would spend about an hour negotiating exactly what the handicap would be. Then he would get the head start, and I would tear off after him. And we did that all the time.
Yeah. So with your, being such a competitive runner, do you think running has helped with your music career? Like, it's transferable, right? It's like you mentioned earlier, breathing, and you still run, a lot of miles.
Yeah. I think I inherited that from my mom, who worked out with her trainer until she was 90. And was, doing squats and push-ups and sit-ups and bicep curls, literally at the age of 90. I saw her because I was living with her at this house that my parents bought in 1965 that I purchased a few years ago. So I have a feeling that I may have inherited my durability, from my mom, because I don't want to hex this, but I have no pain, no residual aches, no problems with joints, hamstrings, or knees, or feet, or hips, and I just have to attribute that to incredible luck and genetics.
Yes. Well, can you share your workouts, like how many times you run and cross train? And
well, my work burden has significantly increased with What About Black Lives being launched around the world on the 20th. And sometimes for me, that can be, leaving me feeling a little bit frantic and fragile and overwhelmed. I would go out on my 90-minute runs, and my trainer, again, the same trainer who trained my mom and my dad, advised me that I was training too hard and that I might be, hurting my immune system, and that I'm very, very thin. I probably lost about 40 pounds since the last time we met. And he was also concerned that I was, cannibalizing my muscle. So he recommended, and I followed his recommendation, to break up my long runs with shorter, harder kind of power producing runs. So
Mhm.
now I do maybe a 90-minute run, if I'm lucky, twice a week. And on my other 3 days, I usually do hill workouts, or we'll go on a really fast 40-minute run. I really have been not on the treadmill at all. I have a good treadmill, but I really, really don't feel like going on the treadmill. So I think today I'm going to stick to running the hills up and down my street and turn it into
Wow.
a hill workout.
And how many hill repeats do you do?
Well, I have to confess, I actually lose track, but when I did it a couple of days ago, because yesterday I did a strength training workout, um, I was out there for an hour.
Wow.
So I
I-
don't know how many repeats. I kind of sort of half walk, half kind of glide down the street, because I find, even though I'm regularly running for 90 minutes, and that feels pretty easy for me, I do find the hill running to be a bit more brutal. I don't know about you with hill running.
Well, I find it is difficult, but I find that it's like medicine. I feel that it'll help me, and there's
Yes.
always reward. So I find it builds my stamina. My legs are stronger. It's just
Yeah.
a whole overall training. But I love cross country running. It's really my favorite, if I may say.
Yeah.
It's that.
I did that all the time when I was, in high school and junior high. I always found it really, really intense though, when everybody crowded between the goalposts of say the football field. Everybody crowding and agitated and restless and waiting for that starter's pistol to go on off. For some reason, even though I did participate in cross country running regularly, I found that to be a little bit harrowing.
Well, no, I mean, I'm still nervous before a run because I find it's like when I'm on a plane, it's like waiting to take off. And once I'm
Yeah.
in, set my own pace, then and
Yeah.
my own focus, whatever I need to do. But yeah, it is nervous when you're with a line of the people because you're like, I don't know. It's just, I want to do well. I guess that's
Yeah.
why I'm
And
nervous.
everybody, crowded between the goalposts, are absolutely super competitive. So you kind of pick up on that, ultra competitive energy too, and that can sometimes be a little
Yeah.
bit overwhelming.
But yeah, that's great. I mean, do you miss, the days of cross country running and
No, I really enjoy, off terrain running, but the last time I did it with really rough terrain, I fell and broke a rib. So
oh,
I've decided that I've made two rules now: not to run on uncertain courses, and not to run at night unless I'm just running hills up and down my street.
yes, yes, because and even though you know what you're doing, I've run on the same path, and then it was sudden at nighttime, around 5 o'clock, and I
Yeah.
just fell and I ripped, I tore my knee, like, through the
Oh,
cloth afterwards, and it was bleeding, but I somehow managed to finish the run. I mean, not to making you feel sorry for me,
no,
but
I
it
can.
was
I
like,
relate totally. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
so I love running, and I haven't run yet, if I gotta confess to that, but I will
Yeah.
today.
Same with me. I will do it, either outside or on my treadmill. I think I'm going to brave the outside though.
Yes, yes.
It's so
So
much more fun, right? Because you're just taking in the fresh air, and just the environment. It's kind of almost, I'm sure you would agree with this, a kind of meditative in a way.
it is, and I feel it's not boring. I find that on the treadmill, it is boring to me, and I
Yeah.
feel like a hamster. And I also feel like I'm not getting my vitamin D, obviously, but it is something in case there's a snowstorm or if there's some,
Yeah.
whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But it's a substitute.
Yeah. But it's still obviously better than nothing, and still running on a
Exactly.
treadmill is
Yes,
more taxing to your body than almost anything else, except for maybe cross country skiing.
yes. So snowshoeing, I love snowshoeing too.
Oh,
So
good for you.
yeah, I love
I'm
it.
impressed.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still running. I'm not as competitive as I used to be, but I'm out there because I find it's my mental health too.
Oh, of course.
Especially right now, with the world, just everything. I just want to surround myself with positive people
Yeah.
and just be in a positive mindset and try
Yeah.
to, yeah, I don't know how everybody else is doing, but I'm learning to adapt, just
Yeah. Well,
discipline.
based on what you do, I would assume that you do a lot of work alone.
I do, and
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need someone to tell me. I mean, I can work with people,
Sure.
but I'm like alone. I don't know if this is a. I mean, if it's a a lone wolf, I don't
Yeah.
mind. You don't need someone
Yeah.
to say do this, do that. I'm
Yeah.
very, yeah. I don't
And
know.
I think, go ahead, sorry.
Well,
I
as well
also
as
think that people that are kind of musicians, songwriters, authors, in some ways have benefited from COVID, because
Mhm.
that is a solitary activity. And one of the problems with being an entertainer or an author is that you're always running around, doing appearances or concerts, which are taking you away from the output of your work. So now that you can't go anywhere or see anybody, you end up producing a lot more work.
Wow. I mean, that's incredible. And so it's everything, like, running helps with your mental health, and then there's sleep, nutrition. And can you tell us about your nutrition? Like,
Well, you know, um, I've been diabetic for over 20 years, so I have to be kind of careful of how I'm eating. I will carb up before my run, that,
mhm,
but say for breakfast, you know, I would have something. This must seem ridiculously boring to you. I would have, say, avocado, cheese, and a tomato.
that's delicious.
But so I'm not spiking my sugars, and yet the avocado, feels kind of like a carb. Then sometimes I'll have say a chicken and tomato, or sometimes I'll have chili. Um, I do find myself craving carbs a lot, you know. But the problem is, and I won't get too deeply into this. If I give myself fast acting insulin and then have a carbohydrate rich meal, it tends to drop my blood sugar dangerously. And if
Mhm.
you go too low as a diabetic, you can lapse into a coma and die. So what I've been doing is not taking the fast acting insulin and just eating foods without carbs, except of course before I exercise.
Mhm. Wow. I mean, Dan, it's like, you're a testimonial. You look so fit and so
Thank you.
youthful, and
Thank you.
it's wonderful. And